Please join me in giving hands off so
How many in the room have heard of Habitat for Humanity somehow or another? Great, that's awesome. In 2002, actually, Habitat for Humanity did a study to value the brand. So those of you who are marketing folks understand there's a value in your brand. And in 2002, that study revealed that the Habitat brand was worth $1.2 billion. And that was such a shocking amount that Harvard Business Review actually has a case study on nonprofit brands and what is the true importance of brand. And certainly when you're a nonprofit seeking donor support, you want to make sure that you have integrity in that brand and that you're trustworthy and that you follow through and do what you say you're going to do. Habitat is currently the sixth largest home builder in the United States, having built over 100,000 homes in the United States in 2016, and many other services, and we'll talk a little bit about it. What I have learned over time is that the value of this huge brand that everybody's heard of has its downsides, right? No. The downsides, yeah. The downsides are that people know what it is, kinda. They don't really understand all the inner workings, and it's a very complicated organization. So I'm going to test your knowledge of Habitat for Humanity today with a little quiz. And we'll answer some questions. This little insight, if you can't see this chart, it's really to keep me on track more than I. If I were a business saying to you there are 5 business units or products that I offer to the community, I would ask you to help me uncover what the 5 products or services that Habitat provides in Sedgwick County would be. So who wants to get us rolling with one of those things? Vic?
Financial.
Okay, financial, tell me about that.
Well, the financial terms for the person that's going to get this.
Right. We are a mortgage lender, and Vic, this is a very intelligent crowd. I knew it would be, because that's often one of the last ones to come up. Our financial model is really unique, especially in America. We don't do anything until we have the cash in hand. So we operate on a cash basis. We raise all the money for a home, and then we sell the home, and then we start to build it when we have a buyer, and then we service that mortgage. And what's the unique part about our mortgage? Anybody know the unique part about our mortgage terms? Interest-free. Since we don't have to borrow any money, we pass that benefit on to the buyer. Anybody have a 0% interest mortgage, do they think, on anything? Okay. Car dealers, you know, sometime I want to have a visit with you afterwards. The 0% interest mortgage, I really need to understand that 5 to 10 year deal that you got going, see if it's the same as mine. But when my family buys a house for $76,000 is about the going rate of a Habitat home now, my appraised value, I sell it to a homeowner. After their 25-year mortgage is over, they have paid me exactly $76,000. And does that cause a savings in their cost of owning that home? Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. Makes a great savings. Okay, great. Mortgage servicing is one of my services. Who else has an idea of one of the services we offer? Uh-huh. We have a resale shop. Oh, you guys are so intelligent. You're getting all the hard ones first. Across the country, Americans are so wonderful. They want to share. They want to share their abundance, and they want to share their leftovers. So if you were going to buy a new house, or you were going to build a new house and sell it to someone, and you had leftover materials coming from 20 different people to use to build the house, you think we could find a buyer for that thing, you know? Or could we build it with volunteers, because that's our labor force, right? So if every time we build a house we had to do it differently, it's really difficult to manage donated materials, especially when they come a few at a time. Now, if you tell me you'll give me the lumber or the drywall for all the house I'm going to build this year, I'm happy to take your gift. But if it's leftover from your housing project, it's really hard to incorporate those. So Habitats across the country started saying, how can we take advantage of this opportunity to serve us? And of course, thrift store for big things is what evolved, and we call that Restore across the country. There are 710 operating Restores in the United States currently. Our Restore last year did $1.2 million in gross sales with a 37% net, so We built almost 4 houses with the proceeds from Restore last year. Thank you to everyone in this room who's ever donated something left over. We just take those leftover materials, sell them to the general public. Anybody been to Restore? Corner of Douglas and West Street. We have a great line of recycled paint. We have some seconds that we purchase on the market, so we do have some things that we buy and resell at a markup. And appreciate you shopping, because that has given us some sort of a sustainable revenue source that we can generate ourselves and helps us to put people's stuff to good use. Redecorating, we'll take your old toilets, sinks, cabinets, all that kind of stuff. Great, 3 more to go. The main one, what do we do? Vic's gonna be my answer boy today.
Training to the buyer.
Okay, training for the buyer, excellent. And this is the one people also have a hard time coming up with sometimes. Oh, I'm going to spell it wrong. That's really bad. Education. As part of the Habitat program, we require every prospective homeowner to complete 40 hours of classroom education. The topics we cover are everything from how to pick homeowner insurance, which, if any of you are interested in coming, it's an interesting challenge, isn't it, to evaluate insurance products one to the other. How to change the air filters in your home is another kind, everything that has to do with maintenance of the home. And then the majority of our work is on financial management. If you have a small budget, then you better be a damn good budget manager, right? If you got a lot of money, you can afford to waste a little, right? If you want to be rich, you're going to be good with that money, good stewards. So our low-income home buyers have to really know how to manage a dollar. And honestly, we learn things from them too, because they do know how to live on a budget. They know how to manage and cooperate. So a lot of that education, understanding their credit score. So we don't discharge somebody because of a credit score like a bank would. We pay attention to what progress they make in improving their score, and we make sure they understand every component part of their credit score. Do you know that your credit score is a big factor in the price of the insurance you purchase these days? It's more and more being used to evaluate everyone and their level of risk. Our families just generally have that higher level of risk. So a very important component of our program. This year we are initiating a program called Heading Home. It's for people who won't necessarily want to go into the home ownership track through Habitat, but we're finding with Dodd-Frank regulations, more young families who want to become homeowners are struggling because of their debt-to-income ratio, because of education debt that they have over their shoulders, because they haven't used their credit wisely and need a way to get out of that. And so we're opening our education program to folks who might qualify in the regular market or on the traditional mortgage market, but just need some help with their budgeting and their financing. And we already have a class of 21 families who don't qualify for our program who want to get that education and training. I improved my credit score 60 points by going through the class, because I really didn't know how I got it, where it came from. Store credit cards, go away. That was one of the things I did that I didn't know made an impact. So great education. 2 more. They're so obvious that nobody wants to say them.
Build communities and homes.
Oh, we build homes. Let's do that part. One of our education pieces is actually about being a good neighbor. And so when you say build communities, I think the education piece really is the part where we try to get people to realize, what does it mean to be a good neighbor? Now, how many of you know your neighbors? Okay, good. How many of you have been in your neighbor's kitchen? Okay, did some hands go down that were up the first time? We say you know your neighbor if you've been in their kitchen, okay? Waving over the backyard fence while they're mowing doesn't count as knowing your neighbor. Our families have actually helped build each other's houses, so they really do know their neighbors. And even if they don't like them, they gain that sense of trust and understanding. They've been through a journey together. I would say a Habitat neighborhood is one of the strongest neighborhoods in the community because of that relationship that they've developed over time. So yeah, we build things, we build homes, and that construction process, of course, is the most recognized portion of what Habitat does. Also in 2017, here we are, we've been experimenting with and have finally arrived at a model for doing home repair work. We're calling it A Brush with Kindness. We're launching it this year in full force. And this program will be taking care of the envelope of a home for existing homeowners who meet our guidelines. So we aren't going to rehab interiors of occupied homes. That's very complicated. If you've had a repair done while you've lived in your home, timetables are really important. We're using volunteers. You don't want to take somebody's toilet out and then say, oh golly, the volunteer plumber can't show up tomorrow. Our quality, we know, wouldn't be good. But if we can, caulk windows, if we can add a roof that'll keep the interior dry, if we can add siding, attic insulation, the things we can do without crossing the threshold for homeowners with deferred maintenance issues. And Wichita, if you've looked at the city comprehensive study and look at the future of Wichita in 2050, I believe more than half of the homes are going to be occupied by one person over 55. So our aging community, we have a lot of elder homeowners who have deferred maintenance, who are now on fixed incomes, who through their working life couldn't quite keep up with everything. And my parents live in one of those houses. They quit worrying about the maintenance. It was home, and they didn't quite look at it as critically, so you get behind, and then it's hard to catch up. So we'll be helping with those things. If we can help on utilities, a lot of times the cost will be offset by what they can save. So building homes and doing repair work are in our DNA now. And we also, yard cleanups and those kinds of things in the area where we work. So definitely understand that. And then the other one is, I'll just give it to you. How close are we to my deadline?
You've got 7 minutes.
7 minutes, okay. Cindy's keeping me on track today so that you don't all fall asleep. I consider that we're like a real estate agent in that we buy and sell properties. And that's its own unique world because of all the regulations, et cetera. So, I'm trying to buy properties on which I can build, or a property, on occasion we'll buy a vacant home that we can rehab. That's so complicated that we're staying away from that a little bit and trying to focus on vacant lots that we can build on. And then we have to go through the loan origination process with our families. So even though we're not licensed realtors and we're not licensed mortgage bankers, we do have to follow all the rules of loan origination for those processes within our state and federal government. So we have to be aware of those regulations, make sure we're vetting our families properly, because of course we don't want to bring somebody in who will fail. Anyone to venture a guess at how many homes we've given away in Sedgwick County since our founding in 1986? Number of homes we've given away. Anybody have a guess at that? 300. I hear 300 lower. Trick question, lower. Given away, 0. It was a trick question. 300 was pretty close. Just seeing if you're awake out there. Because that is the biggest misnomer. Extreme Home Makeover made me really mad because they made a huge fanfare of giving these fancy homes away. And then people think, well, that's what Habitat does too. We don't give anything away. These people work so hard for that. So I want to go to, and then sometimes people say, well, one of the things you do is recruit volunteers. Well, that's kind of the business model for a nonprofit, right? What makes me different from a business is not that I don't reinvest my earnings but really that I'm trying to get my work done largely through a volunteer workforce. And we use about 4,500 volunteers in a year. Takes about 200 individuals, about 2,000 hours to build one home start to finish. We do contract out anything that requires a license, so mechanical, electrical, HVAC, because again, I'm selling these homes, I've got to meet every code and I don't want to take any risks there. Every once in a while I'll get a volunteer electrician. Most of my subs will write me off most of their actual costs.
Okay, as a percentage then, what percent of all your homes were built by volunteers versus the people you had to pay? As an average on a house over the years.
All the houses have a volunteer component of
that.
construction.
I know that. 70%,
okay.
would you say?
I'd say 70%, right, yeah. And again, what I pay them, the plumbing guys, they pretty much charge me cost for every fixture they put in and maybe a little bit of the labor. Because when I do bids, some companies will bid and they'll say, how come I didn't get it? Well, because somebody bid like 80% lower than you, so I'm really getting good prices. The residential builders in town will look at my bids and say, oh my goodness. So, I know that I'm getting some good deals, and WABA really helps me to make sure that value's there. We have built 226 brand new homes. So back to the number, you were very close. 226 brand new homes that we've built, not all slab and grade. We did a few basements in the beginning years, but basements aren't good for low-income families. You have to water your grass. You have to really maintain the property around so you don't crack and leak, and you have to keep it's another place to put stuff. The more room we have, the more we fill it, right, people? We all do that. Human behavior. My working capital is donations, and my mantra is my mission, bringing people together to build homes, communities, and hope. So who do we serve? We'll go through that real quick, and then we'll watch a little minute. Yeah, there are 3 criteria that a family has to meet to be helped by our program. And if anybody read their table literature, you'll know the answers to this. So 3 criteria that you have to meet. Yes, ma'am. They have to have an ability to pay. And this is the part that I think makes us great. We are out, when I was newly married, and my husband and I, we both had jobs, but what's the biggest obstacle to purchasing a home? What have your kids faced when they want to buy that house, but what do they not have? And they come knocking on daddy's door. Yes. I need help with the down payment because we found this house we love and we only need $25,000. You got it, help me. You've all heard this spiel before, right? My PhD doctorate earning child had to get her parents to sign for an apartment lease because they couldn't afford the $8,000 deposit on an apartment in a safe location, which is designed to keep riffraff out, okay? So we put all kinds of obstacles to affordable housing upon the people in our community. Believe me, I can tell you a lot of stories. So the families we serve have to have an ability to pay, so they have to have some kind of a steady income that we can predict for the future.
No criminal record?
Actually, we do not do criminal background checks, and here's the rationale there. As a Christian organization, if you've done a crime, you've paid your time, you're a working person, we see that you're on the road. And honestly, when we get to one of the other criteria, we weed out by behaviors from today going forward, not looking back. Sexual offenders is a different thing. We can't get around the sexual offender checks, and they're presented. 1 minute for your next 2 criteria. Yes?
Well, next one is that the investment of time. So
Right.
$100.
Right. We call that willingness to partner, and it's often referred to as sweat equity. So a family who wants to come to us and build a house, ability to pay, and the third one I'm just going to say also is need for housing. If you already have a place you live and you want to do this so that you can quick come up with a rental property with a 0% interest mortgage, sorry. If you have a place to live that's decent and that you can afford, don't come to me, you're taken care of. So people who have a need for housing, and usually that's people who are living in an overcrowded situation. It's people who are in a house that costs more than 50% of their income. So if any of you take your income and say, I'm going to spend 50% of it on my housing, property tax, insurance, and utilities, 50%, and then I have to live on the rest. If you only make $2,000 a month, people, you're not going to be able to eat. So affordability is one of the big criteria, and then the state of that home. And people in Wichita, Kansas, I had a family that we served who set a clock so they could wake up every hour to make sure the mice weren't in the baby's bed because they couldn't get the landlord to take care of an infestation problem. Bed bugs, mice, insects, and we think, we cringe, right? But people live there because that's what they can afford. Willingness to partner is the make or break it. The people who apply and complain to you folks that they couldn't get into the Habitat program, they did everything they were told, they can't get in, it's usually because they weren't really willing to partner, and that is to perform sweat equity. So our families have to do 250 to 400 hours if it's a single adult versus 2 is the difference there. Working on their home or other people's homes. If they're handicapped, we give them other jobs. My favorite story is Albert. Albert came to the class. His wife really wanted to own a home. Their children are grown, but they're taking care of 4 grandkids. Some of you are in those situations, and their house couldn't accommodate the 4 grandkids safely. When Albert heard about the sweat equity, oh, I'm out of here. He pretty much got up and walked out of the presentation because he's disabled. And he's been disabled 8 years because of how they treated him on the factory line. And he's got this bad shoulder, he can't do anything. And I said, Albert, Albert, Albert. But what about the other shoulder? What about those 2 knees? What about the good head on your shoulders? And we talked to Albert about his strengths, not about his weaknesses. And Albert became one of my best store salesmen at Restore because he knew building materials and he knew tools and he could show people around. And when they had a question, he knew how to figure out lumber, and he was awesome. So he got a lot of his sweat equity. He couldn't swing a hammer with his right hand. He eventually swung a hammer with his left, though. And Albert earned a home. He has the coolest little house on the corner. I see him out there teaching his grandkids how to mow the lawn. And that's where sweat equity shows me the difference. Can somebody be a homeowner or not? So I want to show you a little movie about a family who's gone through our process and who are in our current redevelopment area. And I'm just going to have you see this only. You can't see the detail very much, but this is a map of Wichita, and this is north, and the north boundary of the area where we're currently working is 13th Street. The west boundary is Grove. This would be, right here would be Sedgwick County Health Department, KU Med School. 9th Street is the south boundary, also Murdoch, so it's the 9th Street exit off of 135. And then the east boundary is Hillside. So Grove to 13th, Hillside to 9th. There are 604 residential properties in this area. In the 80s, 108 homes were demolished by the city due to blighted conditions and the infiltration of gangs. So if you can see, what is green is what's currently remaining of those vacant, formerly residential properties. And the pink are rental properties. And I'm going to ask you as homework to drive home down 9th and up and down any one of these streets like Chautauqua, Estelle, Volusia. We've been focusing our efforts on Poplar and Green. I started, and you can see the map close up later. The video will take you a visual tour of this area. But I started where I was able to buy 6 lots in a row. And the first year we built 5 lots in a row on Poplar Street and built 5 homes and got 5 families into those homes. And that was the starting of our neighborhood. Since 2014, we've built 27 homes in this 4-block area. Actually, 2 are a little bit above the map because we had donated properties in the area. So 25 are in this and 2 are right above. And that has caused a great ripple effect of improvement in the area that's absolutely exciting. So let's watch about it. Magic wand, start the movie.
We really wanted a place to call our own, start new family traditions, and make family memories together.
Just seemed like a good opportunity to solidify the family, gave us a sense of home, being able to have this house. Our first home was our home that we built. It's amazing.
Construction, it's down and dirty. Nails and hammers and saws and dust flying and sweat. And so it's kind of basic.
I'd never done any type of real hands-on building, just from the framework to the roof. Just picking the flooring, paints, countertops. It was just an amazing experience.
Even at a low income, when you pay the appropriate amount of your monthly income on housing, then you can afford the other things you need. Our families move into these homes, their kids get into a stable educational environment and start to excel because they've had the same teacher for several years. It's remarkable. These are the incredible benefits of stable housing.
The whole basis of the Restore, it serves a lot of purposes. One of them is recycling. People take stuff that might go to the dump, instead put it in the Restore. It gets reused again, and the profits from the Restore are used to pay for a house.
It's a great place to recycle, get rid of material that maybe is closed out, canceled special orders. It's a regular part of our inventory plan. As a family, we're very passionate about building Wichita, so Habitat's a natural fit. The families that are affected, it literally changes their family trees forever, and that means a lot to us.
I felt right from the beginning this was an opportunity for our employees to get involved with a humanitarian type effort here in Wichita. Seeing the people being able to move in, especially the kids, those are the fun times. Those are the times that have you saying, I think this is worthwhile.
We believe as a family that supporting other families across Kansas is important, and particularly in our community here in Wichita. That's why we love being a part of Habitat.
When you have pride in yourself and pride in the process of what you're doing, and it makes it feel like home, I think that's important. Everybody should get that opportunity.
It's fun to work with not only the volunteers, but also with the homeowners. You can see how any neighborhood that we're in has been improved.
We all set? 1, 2, 3. Excellent.
The area we focused on here was a prime example of a place that has so many strengths that we overlook because there's a few homes with deferred maintenance issues. This neighborhood has a beautiful elementary school, brand new. It's within walking distance. The city just put in new sidewalks.
The partnership came about so that we could make homes affordable to those hardworking families that just didn't have enough to get over the top. We're definitely creating a neighborhood that people can be very proud of.
We have a vegetation management department that takes care of all of our tree issues throughout our service territory. And then they just bring in their crews, and within a matter of a few hours, what seemed to be insurmountable was done. It really helps Habitat for Humanity because it saves them a lot of money.
What you see before and then the after, like you see here with this house, it's just amazing. It's got to give all these folks a sense of hope and a community pride because these things are nice. It gives a chance for people to have that family and have that home they've always wanted.
You know it's their house, you know they're excited about it, but by the time the dedication rolls around, it is a festival, it's Christmas, it's Thanksgiving, all rolled up into one. It is a fabulous atmosphere, and you get to see the whole family coming together, and you know that a whole new chapter of their life is about to begin.
It's changed my life because it's just changed everything. Your perspective on life, it's just so much happier. And I have a dining room table. The other house, there was no place to eat. I grew up around a kitchen table, so I wanted to install that in my kids. And now every day we sit down and eat dinner and talk about our days. It's just amazing to have so much space. It's just completely different.
People in our community have so much that they don't realize there are still neighbors who have very little. That makes me very sad, but it also makes me very hopeful because when people see this area and realize the changes that are possible when we all work together, they get excited. There's nothing more exciting than helping to lift a family up and out of a bad situation into a home that will be a safe, secure environment for themselves and their children, making the future bright for all of us. Of the 226 homes that we've built, and then we have had some donated homes that we've rehabbed, and then every once in a while a family gets out of the program. So we have 22 families who've paid for their houses in full over the course of our timeline, which is incredible. We've had 16 that have gone through a foreclosure process. If you go to the subprime lending and look at how people on the subprime do on their mortgages, we're still better than them. 95.3% success rate overall, which I think is incredible for families who would never have gotten an appointment with a lender at a bank. And we really see that that has improved since we've put a lot of emphasis on the financial management and budgeting program. Every family now gets a budget coach unique to them so that they can't play games and they're held accountable along the way, and that budget coach will continue with them for a year after. Because, oh boy, the temptations when you have that new house to buy things to put in it, et cetera. You know, we realize we have an asset. If they don't make it, we can still take that home and resell it. So we continue to move through foreclosure. They got to learn somehow if they don't make it through the program. The family you saw at the beginning is a great example of what I would say. Some people are poor and some people are poor. And poverty, as many of you know, isn't just the amount of money you have. It's the social support network you have. If everyone in every family everyone in your family is dysfunctional and none of them have ever made it on their own, you learn everything you know from someone, right? Many of our families don't have any kind of a social support network in an urban environment. Coming from rural Iowa, that was the biggest thing for me to have to learn. People don't know their neighbors. They don't help their neighbors naturally. Especially, we live in segregated communities, don't we? There's a sign at the entrance of every development, 250,000 and up, 150,000 and up. You know, we live with people who are of equal means to us, right? We don't have relationships with people who are in a different socioeconomic arena. So one of the great things about Habitat, I think, is that they have an opportunity to rub elbows. You might have seen a little video that Intrust Bank did about their experience recently. A single father with 3 kids. And he literally started crying when he realized the guy working next to him was Jay Smith, the president of Intrust Bank. And he said, a banker would come put on blue jeans and work next to me. He was so touched by the fact that somebody else would help him, because that's never happened to him in a way that was a truly, I'm here to help you with no expectation of return. So the power comes in the relationship and in the way people change their perspective on life and what they can do instead of what they can't do. Questions? Yes, sir. I come your way because I knew you would have some more for me.
You did.
Bring it on. Yes.
Ray Mingo, how are you?
Just long enough to get a mic, so.
Oh,
sorry about
okay.
that, sir. That's okay.
I'll carry it with me, Joe, if you want.
Hardship.
Uh-huh.
They're into this home 15 years, and hardship comes up where they have to move, go back to take care of a mom or dad.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
How does this all work?
This is a great example because of Daniel and Amy.
Okay.
Shortly after we finished this video, Amy's sister was murdered by her boyfriend. And, you know, these are families in poverty. They have networks of family with issues. And so Amy and her husband, their little girl, are in a 2-bedroom, and they gained 3 children that have no other place to go. And so we've been working with them. We are going to buy back their home and resell it on the Habitat market, and they have to get a home that's larger in a different market. So, but they had just enough equity that that's going to be possible for them. You know, they've been there about 7 years. And, you know, that's the benefit of not having that interest mortgage. We don't allow people to assume the mortgage, though, because we want them to go through the program.
Don't you give a Bible with each house?
We do. We consider ourselves a Christian ministry, but a non-evangelizing one. So who knows the name of our founder? That might be even worth a prize if you knew the name of our farmer.
We started with the Bible.
Do you know yes, and do you know the name of that guy?
Very, very wealthy.
The mayor of Bel Air. I bet you know this guy's name.
In 1976, in Quania Farms with Clarence Jordan, Millard Fuller, and Linda Fuller started Habitat for Humanity.
Thank you. And David is pictured in a book about Millard Fuller because his family is very close to the Fuller family. So someday you can get the history of the organization from David firsthand. I would not even begin to share it because he lived that history. But Millard, that it's a Christian ministry helping people and demonstrating the love of Jesus by being the hands and feet next to a person, not in a judgmental way, but a side-by-side relationship way. Thanks for that question. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm curious, what has Habitat for Humanity done differently? Because this is not the first attempt to do something like this. There's been dozens of attempts, and they've all failed. And Habitat for Humanity somehow is managed in a way that is very pleasing to the conservative side of the population, as well as being very pleasing to the liberal side. There's something going on, right?
Actually, David and I were saying maybe this is the year to do a healing project where we bring the Republicans and Democrats together, or even the House and the Senate, and build a house together. You know, our mission is affordable housing. Who cannot, you know, I think whenever you have conflict, when you can rise the focus to that area where we can agree on the goal, our goal is to see that every human being has a decent place to live. And, you know, what's decent we might disagree on here and there. But really, bottom line, we'll say, yeah, mice infestation isn't acceptable to us in America. You know, that might, in a third world country, maybe. So focusing on that goal, I think, is a part of it, and then having that expectation of participation. You know, for that question, I'm just going to say, you get this book, and it allows me to talk about it. This is the book that helped me understand that better than anything else. It's called Toxic Charity: How Churches and Charities Hurt Those They Hope to Help. And if you haven't read it, I would encourage you to get it and read it, because when we talk about people who are entitled, it holds us accountable to the role we play in that. Every time we give away a toy at Christmas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not saying that that kind of giving isn't important, to a point. So recognizing when we give so much that we hurt, a great book to kind of uncover and take about that. The sweat equity piece, I think, makes a big difference, and being in relationship with the people you help. I think it's really important. Thank you. Other questions? How many minutes do we have left?
17.
Yes, sir.
And you got about 10.
Okay, thank you.
I believe you're going to take us on a tour this afternoon at
We
2:45.
We can go on a tour this afternoon.
Can you tell us about it?
How freezing cold is it outside, though?
It's perfect.
It's perfect?
He's in sales.
The reason I was going to say it just so happens that Monday afternoon at 5 o'clock, we will have a dedication of a home in this area where you could actually come into a finished home, meet the homeowner, see the ceremony that we use for the dedication. I would love to invite all of you to that dedication. We serve cake and punch, 5 o'clock at 1201 North Green Street. Because we're selling the home on Monday, I'm not willing to walk everybody through the house this afternoon, but we could do a walking tour of the neighborhood, Poplar and Green, so you can see some of the changes in that area. I know most of the neighbors. I can point out the houses that are owned by landlords that have been improved with no help from Habitat, which is exciting when, you know, property owners are recognizing that if they make some investments in their properties in this area, it benefits everyone. Rudy Giuliani said a broken window will cause a whole community to go down. There's been a lot of studies that that's true. We kept believing that if you put something good in this horrible community, everything would rise, and it's starting to. It's so exciting. It's really exciting. So if you want the tour at 2:45.
Let's do it at 5 instead. How many
on
people?
Monday at 5?
Oh, Monday at 5.
It's Monday at 5.
Okay. How many people would like to go today? I thought I needed to do that. If we supply free beer.
It's a Christian ministry, not a Catholic one, so I have to be a little cautious.
I'm talking about communion.
Oh. Yeah, ask Leo Delperdang about Northwest Iowa. We're a little Catholic up there. Yes, ma'am.
Your area of focus is
in a designated area, do you work outside that area, or have there been other areas that you've worked?
Yes, through our history, we've worked in a lot of areas. We started out doing infill developments where we just built one house at a time. Then in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a federal government program called SHOP, and they would loan money to modest income housing projects. They would pay for the infrastructure, basically. And so Habitat typically does not accept government money. That might be why we're seen as positive on all sides. But we did accept money for infrastructure, street, curb, gutter, because our families can't afford specials at all. And so there are two developments, one at 33rd North and Jackson. Jackson is a couple blocks west of Broadway. There are 42 homes in that development, and that was entirely a Habitat development. And then there's one at 43rd South and Hydraulic. There are 45 units there. We have 4 yet to build out. And so we try to do 2 in a location, so we'll still be building in the south area occasionally. What often happens is we get a house or 2 back in an area that, the foreclosed property comes back. And we've been really aggressive on foreclosures in the past couple years because the economy really hit these families as hard as anyone. I think I didn't. So for right now, to make sure we have the biggest possible impact, we've retained this focus area, but we're exploring where's the next area of focus to start acquiring properties. Mm-hmm. Yes?
No.
Uh-huh.
Could you tell us about how you build a house in one day or one evening?
Oh my gosh.
The event?
How we do? The fastest we...
You don't want to give away the secret.
Oh, no, there's no secret to it. Pre-do everything, right? Pre-do everything, stage everything. I think the fastest we've ever built a house with all community volunteers was at the 2016 Riverfest as a marketing ploy down in the front of Waterwalk Place. And my friend Jack DeVore was good enough to pay to move the house, or I could not have possibly done it. So thanks, Jack, for my marketing money. And that was 8.5 days, starting at 7 a.m., ending at 7 p.m., and with 2 full shifts of volunteers per day. And that's from the moment of having the flat platform on a pedestal built, because that took about 2 days all by itself just to make it level and to have that stage arranged. When they do a house, in a 24-hour day, it's usually with very meticulous scheduling. And then, of course, use of hot mud and different techniques that you can do. I don't like doing it that way because you end up going back and kind of redoing stuff. Yes, sir?
I worked on 3 or 4 houses. And,
Thank you.
But I'm trying to make sure that they're the same program. They had a Bliss Bill.
Blitz build.
Right. So that came through my church and they asked for volunteers.
Great.
So it was a great program.
How many have helped build on a build? All right, thank you. That's awesome. Appreciate it. Other questions? Here, I'm going to stop on the way, Joe. I've been looking at you over and over.
Okay, well, you mentioned that in a statistic that over almost half the homeowners are going to be single occupants. What are you doing by 2050?
Single. Oh, right.
For multifamily, and also.
Good question.
1,000 square miles in Sedgwick County. What about our rural communities?
Yeah.
What's your footprint in those areas?
Rural America, especially coming from a farming background, is a real challenge to us because we have to have people who have the ability to pay. And so many times they can't afford to sustain an operation in a rural community. So there isn't enough employment, truly, in those areas to keep people, make people able to afford a home. The other thing is property costs have been exorbitant once you cross a certain line. So when I want to build a house and it costs me $85,000 in cash today to build an 1,100 square foot house, and I have a budget for $5,000 for the land, and that includes the land prep, so soil testing and all clearing, that kind of thing. So yeah, we haven't identified as big a need in the rural communities either. Most of the time there's more of a network. We did build a house in El Dorado, Kansas. Butler County doesn't have a Habitat affiliate. They had a lady with 3 children whose home burned down, and she didn't have homeowners insurance, and she's a para in a school. She was absolutely without a place to live, and El Dorado has a big housing shortage, so we built a house for her as a disaster response last year. Good question.
Multifamily?
Multifamily, thank you. Actually, we've been exploring some models there. The city of Wichita has an urban infill development committee operating right now, and one of the things they're looking at is, could we get more infill development if we allowed multifamily in some areas that were which have previously been zoned as single family? So I'm sure we'll have some community opposition to that idea, but it certainly could be a good option. For veterans especially, we are finding that many times veterans do much better if they can be in more of a multifamily environment, so there's some support or a neighbor, near. So we're definitely looking at some prototypes there, and zoning will be the issue then. Where could we build that kind of a setup? And again, we're all home ownership, and so in Kansas, people don't have quite the stomach for purchasing, a duplex, et cetera, until they get older, and the elderly population is certainly one that we're trying to do that for as well. Slab on grade, all accessible, makes a big difference for them.
You get volunteers to build new construction.
Mm-hmm.
Do you also have like a to-do list of people that need some assistance, like install an air conditioner or fix a window, or I built a wheelchair ramp. I did Habitat in East St. Louis.
Oh, yay.
And we went out with small groups, and we had a list of things, and we could say, okay, I can do this or that. Do you have that?
Yeah, that's our Brush with Kindness program that we're just launching, and it's the logistics of getting that timing and the talent together. Okay. So we're just getting started on that. We have 93 projects on a waiting list that we're estimating right now to see what's the real need, and then can the house support a ramp? Can the structure of the house hold up the window that we're going to put in? Sure. Some of those become issues that we are looking at as we do it, because the families will pay back for what service they receive. And again, if somebody gives me something, I don't care about it near as much as I do if I've got something invested. So the families in our repair program will also have to go through some financial education. For the older families, that's often how I'm going to get my Medicare set up. It may be how I need to protect the equity in my home. Insurance purchases are much different later in life. So these are things that will be a part of our education program for them. And then the sweat equity, especially for our elders, is often bake cookies for the people who are coming to work, or be the person who checks them in, because sometimes the folks can't truly do the physical labor of the work. Right back here.
At one time, former President Jimmy Carter's name was often associated with Habitat for Humanity. Is he still involved, and what is his position?
Great question. Most of the time in a room like this, when I say who was the founder of Habitat, people will guess Jimmy Carter. My Millard Fuller specialist agrees. Jimmy Carter was a friend of Millard Fuller, and I believe Jimmy Carter's role has been to be the marketing agent, the person who said this is a good thing, and the person who put his name and his work behind it. He and Rosalind work on a build every single year. Even after his cancer diagnosis, he participated in a build. I think it costs $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to be a volunteer on a build with Jimmy Carter. They find that's a fundraising opportunity for Habitat everywhere. And there's a Jimmy Carter build going on in Canada in April, I believe. I think there's still slots for $5,000 if you'd like to work side by side with Jimmy and Rosalind, and just his putting a voice. Honestly, who's the Sedgwick County resident who tried very hard to champion every man a homeowner? Sedgwick County resident, every man a homeowner. It was his mantra for years. He tried to do this in third world countries. Willard Garvey. Yeah, if you've read An Epic Life, a great story of his efforts to champion that, belief that economic stability comes from being a homeowner, right? You're building asset. You have some equity. You're investing in yourself. Forced savings, whatever you take it. He did it, but on his own. He didn't engage other people, and eventually couldn't. But there's still communities that he built in third world countries that are that have been very successful. Fascinating story. Yes, sir. 1 minute. We're done.
We always like to know what the future, where you think you're going to be going.
This will be my final question.
Good one.
There are 195,000 single-family residences in Sedgwick County. The person who comes closest without going over to the number of those could be owner-occupied or rental, where the owner pays more than 50% of their income to live there. We'll win a book called Evicted. We'll talk about that then the minute I get a winner. So 195,000 individual residential units. How many of those are occupied by somebody who pays more than 50% of their income to live there? Because when we solve that problem, then we'll have affordable housing for everyone. 70%. I don't know how to do percent in my head, so you have to give me a round number.
Okay. 40,000.
Under 40,000. Under 27. It's under 40,000.
Under 40?
195,000 units. Pay more than 50% of their income.
10,000.
More than 10. More than 12. 13, 14, 15.
David wants that book.
Under 20.
16.
A little higher than 16. 18,000, okay. 18,500 families in Sedgwick County, according to the 2014 estimates, pay more than 50% of their income on housing. This is a book, and I read a lot, so I give books all the time. This book is called Evicted. It was written by a guy, Matthew Desmond, who lived in a trailer park in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and got to know the people who rented from that trailer park owner, and he got to know the trailer park owner. And we'll be doing Habitat Board and friends will be doing a book club on this in late March. So if you'd like to participate, get a copy of the book. It's on the New York Times bestseller. It's a great read. Great statistics on housing in America and how we get this dynamic equilibrium of people paying too much and living in substandard housing anyway. So finding a solution that's long-term fix for affordable housing, renter or ownership, is what we're looking for in the future here, and focusing on advocacy for ownership issues going forward is something too that I think Habitat will look forward to. And building as many houses as I can raise money to build so that I don't have to borrow. Thank you for your kind attention. Nobody wants a tour today, so Monday, 5 o'clock, 1201 North Green Street. If you want to see a home in a neighborhood, 1201 North Green, and we'll make sure you have that address. I'm sure John has a way to get information to you.
The address is on the sheet here.
Okay, 1201 North Green, great.
The presentation is listed, and
Thank
it'll
you.
be 5 o'clock instead of today. It'll be Monday, the 27th, at 5 o'clock at that address.
And thanks for your attention. And again, thanks to everyone who's volunteered, donated, or participated in our program in any way. We're very grateful.
Let's give Ann a thank you for doing
Was that okay? Perfect. Was that okay?
Presentation today. Let's thank her for the work she does in our community.
Aw, thank you. It's not me, it's a lot of people. Thank you.